Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. I'm seeing green, so I'm assuming that I am all good. This show wasn't scheduled in the least. I saw a story on Twitter. I saw a story on Twitter and it made me smile. And so I took it as a feel-good story, one that I want to share. Let me just check my mic to see if the sound is okay. Yeah, that works. And that is that 100. Good. Sometimes my volume drops between shows. Yeah, I was on Twitter. I saw a story. I saw it late last night. I was going to do it. It was like 12 o'clock, so I called it a day. I just figured I'd push it off till tomorrow. It made me smile. I thought it was a feel-good story. Um, I'm using this picture because I think that's the lens to which I was viewing the story. Oh, this reminds me of something, by the way. When I think it was the left forum. They were having Glenn Ford. Glenn Ford, there was a few people in the room, but Glenn Ford was giving a speech. And he comes up, and Glenn Ford is one of those guys who was back in the civil rights era, like ways back. Glenn Ford has a little age on him. And he comes to the stadium and he says, "Power to the people." And it's like, I haven't heard that in so fucking long. And it brings back this kind of context. The 60s, 70s context where you're giving a speech and you're in hostile territory giving that speech. And you give that speech nonetheless. Yeah, I love it. That's what this puts me in mind of. There is a difference between hashtag resistance, Mick resistance, people running around with pussy hats on their heads, the people who affiliate themselves with the Democratic Party and put this D beside their name and believes that because they have a D beside their name, they're resistance, or rappers who all of a sudden give a rap and they're all of a sudden part of resistance. I'm talking about the real thing of political resistance, of getting stuff accomplished and getting stuff done. There's a real resistance in this country. And I would say we should look to Maine, or at the very least for this particular story, Maine. Resistance in this context was political. Maine was one of the states, or was the state, that passed ranked choice voting. Now, what ranked choice voting is this: it allows you to choose more than one person when you vote. I want this person as my first choice. I want the second person as my second choice. Now, this is somewhat of a powerful element, and the reason why they want to pass ranked choice voting is because it takes the burden off the person. Or think of it this way: our current political system burdens third parties, and by burdening third parties, you actually burden your options. You have two people, or two main parties, Democrats and Republicans. Let's say you have a third party choice. All of the media attention, all of the emphasis is put on the two parties. All of the instruction that the person is given, all of the assumptions are put on the two-party system. Meaning that if you're a person and you're completely dissatisfied with the two-party system, you could still go to vote because you actually want to have some hand in the process. Even though you don't like any of these two people, you may love that third-party person, but you're still pressured to vote for the one of the other two. In your head, this third-party person has no choice in winning, or there's no chance for him to win, and I don't want to throw away my vote. I want to have some impact, some influence on the system, regardless of how minor that influence is, because this person in no way represents my interests. So, fuck it, I'll vote for the Democrat. Or fuck it, I'll vote for the Republican. Even though the person you wanted was a third-party candidate. You're stuck with this esoteric other. This thing in your head that says, I will vote for this third-party candidate if I believe other people would vote for this third-party candidate. You understand the ridiculousness of this and the problem associated with this. That third-party candidate may get 30% support if the people who wanted to vote for that third-party candidate voted for that third-party candidate. And that may be enough support to actually win that race, depending upon the number of other people in that race. Donald Trump was winning many of those primaries for like 30%, just based on the number of the people that were in the primaries. The way we run our system, the assumptions that we build into our system, and the emphasis that is put on the two parties in the system, even with that emphasis with us as individuals, we're pressured to choose people who we don't necessarily like, with this assumption that other people, the society that you have ensconced in your head, whatever your view of society is also going to choose these other people that they also don't like. Ranked choice voting allows a decapitation of that process. I am choosing Jill Stein because she's the person who I want to win. I am choosing, I'm writing in Bernie Sanders because he's the person who I also want to win. Fuck all to everybody else. In that race, it is very possible that people would have chosen a third party, either Gary Johnson or Jill Stein, at a much higher percentage. Not saying they would have won, but she would have gotten a hell of a lot more than 2% or whatever percentage she got. Just by virtue of people being able to choose more than one choice and being able to put that choice in a rank. I want this person first, I want this person second. It is a powerful thing, and it is decapitating to the two-party process in the way that the party process is run. Maine passed that. Maine says, yes, we are tired of being exploited by these two parties. These two parties are not written in the Constitution. They have nothing to do with the government in and of itself. They would not have a tyranny over the way we do our voting. Maine says we are done with it. Ranked choice voting. The political establishment in Maine, Republicans and Democrats, said, fuck that. And the two parties conspired in order to decapitate the referendum that was passed by Maine for ranked choice voting, essentially trying to stop that process. Yes, we don't want this ranked choice voting because this ranked choice voting upsets the apple cart. We have a duopoly. We like the way this duopoly is. We like the way the duopoly works. People will go back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. Once they get tired of one, they go back to the other. We like this arrangement. The system is gamed. We like it that way. Third parties are kept out of the process because each party is terrified of the other party. We can play football. You have two parties to choose from. That's a democracy, two parties. So yeah, they fought it. They fought the referendum. They fought what the people wanted to do. The people turned around and had a signature drive to override what Congress in Maine was trying to do, forcing Maine to go to essentially allow ranked choice voting. It was essentially a people's veto. The citizenry itself came together and overrided what the government was trying to do, essentially the government vetoing what they put through the very first time. That's fucking amazing. That's fucking amazing. Congratulations to Maine. This is the story. Let's see. I wanted to do this story because I thought the story was badass. And I keep saying dollars or pitchforks. Parties are going to come together and conspire to stop stuff like this because they understand that they have the system gamed in a way that they don't want anybody else intruding into that game space. And by the way, all of those people who were in Congress that did something about this, meaning tried to go against what the people wanted, should be voted out. It should be one of those things that Maine comes together to do to vote those people out. Maine came together and said, we wanted X. The politicians said, fuck that. You're trying to upset the apple cart. You're trying to hurt our chances of getting elected as a Democrat and Republican. So no, we don't like that. In which case, they were overridden. Those people should be voted out. And lefties who get into Congress, if you're using the dead husk of the Democratic Party in order to get into Congress, one of the things that you should be for is to understand that you're not a Democrat. You may be wearing the clothes. I would say do not fall into this belief system that you're a Democrat. If you're going to work to those ends, I would argue that there needs to be something, some edifice that has a job of making sure that elections are safe, meaning untouched by party collusion. The party system should not have anything to do with the government itself. Yes, the party can drive the bus, but no, the party should not be able to change the contours of the bus to make sure that they themselves have an easier chance of getting in office. If the public wants to start a third party, if third parties want to run, that process should be easy and available. Otherwise, you've gamed the system. Whatever lefty, or if lefties get in Congress, however you get in Congress, be it a third party or the husk of the Democratic Party, that should be on the agenda, making sure that elections or other parties are allowed to run. Remember how difficult it was for you to get in that particular spot in the way that these people gamed the system, and realize that you're not one of them. People's veto signature drive results in major ranked choice voting elections in Maine. With the Committee for Ranked Choice Voting remarkable success in collecting signatures to force a people's veto referendum on last October's law delaying implementation of ranked choice voting, this innovative system will be used for Maine's June 12, 2018 primaries for state and federal offices. Voters initially approved ranked choice voting for all state and federal elections in November 2016 with the second highest vote total in Maine's initiative history. It was overwhelming support. The referendum will restore ranked choice voting for uses deemed unquestionably legal. United States Senate U.S. elections in November for all state and congressional primaries in June. It also restores the 2016 RCV law until the referendum occurs. Maine, as a result, will become the first state in modern era to use ranked choice voting to nominate candidates in primary elections for the United States Senate, U.S. House, Governor, and state legislature. On the top of the primary ballot will be highly competitive, crowded primaries for the Democratic and Republican nominations for governor, where ranked choice voting will have an immediate impact. Maine joins more than a dozen American cities that are using ranked choice voting and generating more participation, civic engagement, and substantive civil campaigns. Fair Vote nonpartisan electoral reform organization chaired by musician Chris Novelisk has long been the nation's leading advocate for ranked choice voting as a means to ensure voters have a greater choice on the ballot box and more fair representation in government. Rob Ritchie, Fair Vote's executive director, today released a statement. On this day, we celebrate a victory for democracy. That's epic. We celebrate a victory for democracy. I love that. In a remarkable event driven by volunteers going out in wintry streets to collect signatures from their fellow Mainers, they have ensured that Maine voters will use ranked choice voting in June and will be able to permanently reverse the legislature's effort to undo popular will and earn better choices, fair representation, and more meaningful elections. What he just said there towards the end was somewhat epic. They tried to undo what Maine wanted. Like, this is not, governors or politicians bullshitting the public, standing up on a mic saying, well, the American people want. The American people told you what they wanted. This was not some representative saying we want X. This is the public itself saying this is what we want. We're voting for. We're going to a booth and we're putting our name down saying this is what we want. And the government itself, Democrats and Republicans, say fuck that. You're upsetting our apple cart. We don't give two shits what you want. We're going to undo and delay the law that you yourselves passed and you yourselves deem what Mainers wanted to run by. That is an amazing thing. They should be voted out of fucking office. Every last one of them that put their name behind delaying that vote should be voted out of office. Good job, Maine. Good job. That is fucking amazing. Maine gets a standing applause for this. Let's see. We congratulate the Committee for Ranked Choice Voting on its admirable job protecting democracy for people of Maine. That's literally what they did. We expect the League of Women's Voters of Maine and other civic groups to do a terrific job introducing ranked choice voting to voters. We have high hopes that Maine's Secretary of State and election clerks will embrace and overcome very real challenges of running ranked choice voting elections for the very first time. In return, the nation will have a lesson in how ranked choice voting will help fix our broken politics. You need to get money out of politics. But part of that is the capacity to have other people and other choices and other modes of thought. You have two modes of thinking of the world, and both of those modes are nearly similar. Pepsi and Coke. Democrats and Republicans, they have gamed the system. What they're trying to do in this case is say, look, we're going to expand the playing field and we're going to allow people not to be penalized for seeing somebody else that they want to vote for. If the crowd believes, it's almost as funny. It's almost like putting a firing squad and putting a blank bullet in a gun. That's what it feels like. Where each soldier can think to themselves, well, maybe I wasn't the one that actually killed the guy. In this case, you allow the person to say, this is the main person I want. But if the rest of the public doesn't agree with me on this, I'll pick this guy. There's a chance that a lot of the public, meaning there's a chance that your perception of what the rest of the world is wrong. There's a perception that that's wrong. Meaning that person who you wanted to vote for, other people, if they did what that impulse told them to do and voted for that person, might have gotten that person elected. Look, some of this stuff is perceptual, all I'm saying. And the esoteric other is a big fucking deal when it comes to third-party votes, because that is one of the main things that keeps third-party people out. This at least helps. This at least helps. Good job, Maine. Applause for Maine. Good job. This is the Power to the People Award for Maine. Let's see. Gardner, we will see how long Maine will be able to sustain it. I doubt if the parties will be happy with this. No, they're not happy with this. No. Well, I told you the first time around they tried to get rid of it. I mean, they literally passed a law to stop it from going into effect. Despite the fact that Maine itself, like, look, it's one thing if you have an election and at the end of that process, you have, 20% of the public votes. The public is kind of unhappy with the choice. But at the end of the day, it's okay, fine, all these people voted. You're repealing a law that your representative did, if that makes sense. Like, your representative put something in office, and you can say, okay, well, people voted for that guy, and so the law that the guy passed is, we don't like it, but this is different. This is the public itself. This is not the representative of the public passing some law. This is the public itself saying this is what we want. And the Maine legislature comes behind and says, yeah, we don't like this. We don't like this. Because at the end of the day, we're politicians, and this is our job. And like no other industry who wants to lose their job, meaning coal miners don't want to lose their job, even though, yes, coal miners need to lose their jobs. Even though the oil companies need to lose their jobs, they are not going to want to lose their jobs. The societal impact for what they do is less important than them keeping their jobs. That's their livelihood. That's the way they live. That's how they support themselves. It's how they define themselves. What happens? In the same way that all of those other industries, none of those people want to lose their jobs. When the public says, well, you're kind of fucking up at your job. You're not good at your job. You need somebody else to do that job. And the politicians are like, at the end of the day, this is still my job. And I'm going to protect my job by passing legislation through the powers of this job that you've afforded me to stop you from making me lose my job. And the public in Maine has the recourse of saying, no, we need you to lose your job. We need even the threat of you to lose your job. Like, in an odd way, not even an odd way, they're protecting their job. I mean, ultimately, Democrats and Republicans are human beings and individuals who run in parties. Those parties, for them, are their livelihoods. That's their cause. They're corporations. Like any other corporations that want to maintain their position in their space, like any other person who wants to maintain their position in their space, they say, we don't like ranked choice voting because this can make us lose our jobs by allowing the public to actually choose somebody to represent their interests. It gives the public more power in this process. And at the end of the day, the public should be the only thing that matters in this process. These guys are trying to protect their livelihood. We're trying to run the fucking country. There's a difference in those things. Yeah, they're not going to like it. Sad day for them. Sad day for them. Pat Hacker, Mr. X, go for it, but it's going to be gamed in the same way that falsely perceived two-party system is. Watch as Prop 8 was garnered in California by state interest to prevent single-sex marriage. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. DHS my ass. The reason we have the two-party system corruption is currently due to corruption. Yeah, they're bribed. The two-party establishment parties have a stranglehold on mainstream media and debates that makes it very difficult for third parties. Yeah, literally, that's the way it's gamed. It's gamed in a different way, too. Normalization. Normalization is a big fucking deal. Like, part of the reason that they started off screaming Hillary Clinton was inevitable, Hillary Clinton was inevitable, is because they wanted to get into your head that it was pointless for anybody else to run. She's inevitable. Well, clearly that wasn't true. Whether it was true or not had nothing really to do with it. They wanted to get that thought into people's heads. Your reality is usually just what you think about. Like, yes, there are things that happen out there, but the way your reality is structured is often for you, particularly in the context of things that aren't necessarily solid and things that haven't necessarily happened. Just because they haven't happened doesn't necessarily mean you don't have this kind of conception of what those things are. And you behave accordingly to the way that you think those things are and how you think those things are going to come out. Shaping the narrative is pretty goddamn important. And if you have this belief that third parties have no chance, third parties can't run, third parties have, they're pointless, then that's true. If you believe that third parties have a chance, then yeah, then that also becomes somewhat true. How many people, whatever people believe on this, is essentially what this becomes. It becomes more important to shape people's belief systems. Now, the contrary narrative to this is the attempt to change people's mind on it. Changing people's mind on it essentially changes the reality of that particular situation also, making that thing become much more likely to occur. Some of the stuff, I guess my point is, the third party thing is more than just the third party itself. There's also this kind of perceptual issue associated with this. Ranked choice voting is trying to, I guess, offset that in some way. It's trying to offset it. They're going to still have issues with cash and media, but at least in one sense, not forcing the public to be penalized or taking a penalty for voting for the person who they actually want when that person is not part of the main two parties is a good step. It's a good step. Good fucking job, Maine. Good fucking job. They can miss the first choice. They can miss the first choice. Anthony Alley, good example, Jamal. Nobody wants to lose their job. I would probably feel the same way as politicians. Yeah, and I don't blame them. I'm saying, look, our reality is strange in the way that it's structured. It's as human beings, I don't think you can expect people to. Can you expect people to be selfless? I guess that's the point. That's the question. And the answer is no. Like, we're stuck in this competitive society where it's almost zero sum. There's not a situation where if that politician loses his job, that politician has lost his livelihood. What is the politician to do in that situation? Is the politician to remain selfless and say, okay, if the people want me out, then the people are, they just vote me out, then they just pass this other stuff? Or is the politician to say, fuck that, I need to keep my job, I have a wife to feed, I have a family to feed, I have a car note, I have a house. But that's everywhere. The co-worker who's done this job for 20 years and he's doing something that's horrendous for the society and the wider world, but he has a job to do, he has a family, he has a wife to feed. Can we really expect that guy who has those responsibilities living in this particular life to say, okay, I'm willing to give all that up and to go into this kind of uncertain future? Or is that guy going to be pretty pissed off and upset if you try to get rid of his livelihood? It's individual versus the larger societal standpoint. I mean, in any of these cases, the problem with this is each person can go without to the degree of being, in scarcity. With a co-worker minded so much, if what he left off, there was no situation to which he would go without, meaning he would still have access to the things that he needed for his life, he probably wouldn't be that, pissed off about it at that point. He'd be compensated for the fact that he's leaving that particular job that he did. This is the way we're structured, man. It creates these kind of individual versus larger societal dilemmas that, at least from the way they were organized, don't have a clear answer to. Yeah. Pet Hacker. Cobb got the Green Party nomination, although he only received 12% of the vote. Holy shit, really? That's rough. Mr. X, Huffington Post reported Hillary Clinton had a 98% chance of winning the election on the day that she failed. Yeah, yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. They did. They did. Sad. It's so sad. That is sad. I hope somebody has access to that page. I hope they have access to that page. What's funny, when I was, the guy who I work with, he believes, like, yeah, Hillary Clinton is going to get over 300 votes. Hillary Clinton is going to get over 300 votes. I showed him my map. This is my map. I don't see how she wins this, even though intellectually I was like, there's no way how could she lose? But on the map, from an intellectual standpoint, I could not see how she could win that race. And he has like 300 some votes. I said, okay. I kept a picture of that on my computer because I wanted to show him at the end of that race. And I said, if Hillary Clinton wins this by 300 votes, I will wear a Hillary Clinton shirt. If Bernie Sanders, or if Donald Trump wins, or Donald Trump doesn't break, or she doesn't break 300, you wear Bernie Sanders' shirt. That asshole never wore the shirt. I gave him the shirt. I put it in his office. It sat in his office for like a year. And he wouldn't wear it. I would just walk by and it's like, okay, man, just give me my shirt. No, man, I'll wear it. The indignity of it. In fact, I think that's worse. Like, it's easier to just be a man about it and be like, yeah, good job, as opposed to the indignity of not owning up to the bet. Even though you're sitting there with the Bernie Sanders shirt, emasculating you, just from you not doing that particular thing. It's like you're just looking at it and it's looking at you and it's like, Yeah, dude, you know you failed on that bet. You're being emasculated at this moment by continuously looking at the shirt of a bet that you failed to live up to. But that being said, I would have worn the Hillary shirt. I would have took the lump. But I couldn't see how she would win. I couldn't see it. I thought to myself, I was like, okay, maybe if she gets one of these states. The thing that I saw that spooked me about it was they were like, the Hillary camp has sent people to Wisconsin or somewhere like that. And they was like, they're thinking she may lose Maine or somewhere else, or Ohio. I was like, what? If she loses Pennsylvania, that's a wrap. If she loses Wisconsin, that's a wrap. She lost both. I was like, what? What? Yeah. The Hill BC shirt. Yeah, Marty, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I wanted him to see the Sanders shirt. I wanted to see that Bernie shirt on him. That's what I wanted to see. The indignity of it. All of those Hillary supporters wagging their fingers at me, telling me that, oh, you need to vote for Hillary. You need to vote for Hillary. And then she's going to win. It's a lock. There's no way she's going to lose to him. Oh, you're just angry that Bernie Sanders lost. Your person is going to lose this fucking race to a monster. That's what it boils down to. And their person lost this race to a monster. Couldn't even look me in the eye in the morning. It's like bringing some woman home from a bar and just having the worst, nastiest sex on the planet. And you get up that morning and you just can't look each other in the eye. That's what the election night was when the Hillary Clinton supporters came back to office. They just couldn't. It was like, just had to look away. Just had to look away. Sad. You couldn't feel high school gym. That was funny. Did you see the Tim Kaine? There was a Tim Kaine video where Tim Kaine went to a high school gym. There was like nobody there. It was like, who's Tim Kaine? Who? Tim Kaine who? Yeah. Yeah. It was fucking hilarious. It was hilarious. Yeah, Sanders. That thing in New York, man. Sanders had like 20-some thousand people at that stadium. I mean, just outside, filling up the area. Yeah, it was amazing. People who were dragged to those stadiums. I have a video coming up after this, so I'm not going to hold this one for too long. But I wanted to give these guys credit for Maine. Maine, good fucking work. Look, guys, the political process is corrupted. It is broken. It is fractured. It has corrosive joints. There are hallways that haven't necessarily been walked down for a long time. There's cobwebs. There's, nasty stuff all through the hallways and in the bathrooms. But it's still there. It's still there. Just because those things haven't been used doesn't necessarily mean those things couldn't be used. They're still there. They just aren't being used. They aren't being worked and leveraged. The edifice is there. If Maine teaches us nothing, when the public gets involved, that just takes a sustained, ridiculous amount of effort to do something that should have been done in the first place. Good job, Maine. Good job, Maine. And the organization that was pushing this, I've spoken with this guy, or not spoken with him, I've heard this guy give lectures on ranked choice voting. This guy is an amazing talker. And I'll say it in a bad way. I said just in his presentation of what ranked choice voting is and their work in Maine is fucking awesome. He had an awesome presentation at the Convergence Conference. Rob Ritchie, Fair Votes, Executive Director. So, I will leave it at that. Good job, Maine. Good job to the people of Maine. Maine, stop taking shit off of the politicians. Good fucking work. Power to the people. Have a good one, guys.